to have you all here. It's another Monday evening. Thank God we have our facilitator here with us already. Let's just wait a few more minutes for others to join in before we start the training for today. So just chill. If you have friends that are yet to join, share the link with them, let them join. If you want to share it on your system as well, share the link to as much as want to join so that we can all be a partaker of the training tonight. So we're going to wait a few more minutes so that others can join before we start. Thank you, and good to have you all here. All right, everyone. We're going to be starting right about now. Um, uh, without wasting much of our time, let's just use the smiley to appreciate and welcome Mr. Caleb Adigit here this evening for the training. Please use the icon to welcome and appreciate him this evening. Be expecting to see the icons. If not, I won't tell him to start. I see the icon. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone. All right, Mr. Caleb, over to you tonight.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And can you see my screen? I believe you can.
Yes.
All right. Thank you,
Yes, we
everyone.
can see it.
Hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to the second session of the Idea to Product series. So we are going to be getting our hands a bit dirty today. I know we laid the foundation the last time. Last time was a bit more conceptual, right? Getting things started. But today we're actually going to go a bit deeper in the idea to product. Today we'll go more into the product side of things, right? So, all right, no, without further ado, I think we can get started. Just a little recap. I think the whole goal of the series itself is to show how we can go quickly from ideas. A lot of us have ideas. We want to build that business, that solution, that application, right? So the goal of the series is to show how AI tools can help us quickly go from that idea just in your head, in one corner of your head, to an actual product that people can use, right? So, and we've laid the foundation. We started with um, identifying the idea, identifying who it's for, who the problem affects, right? And last session we focused more on generating the PRD, right? And the PRD was more focused on what the problem is, who it affects, and what features are we building, and what features are we not building yet. So these three things essentially on the high level is what the PRD helps us answer, right? And it helps us put all the rough ideas into one structured document. So yeah, I believe that is everyone understands that. So today we would be going on in the application we actually was saying we're going to build, which is Shipyard, which is an application for creators where you can post ideas, share ideas, collaborate on ideas, and view what other people are also working on in case you are interested and you want to collaborate. Just a simple application. It will be useful for the community. So we want to see how we can take that idea and go from just an idea into actual reality. So from the PRD we created, I think we already created the PRD, where we highlighted the features, what's the scope and everything. So what the scope of what we what we mentioned the last time was just basic MVP. It would include authentication, the public feed where you can see the different ideas people are posting, the ability to create a post, and the ability to upvote, right? So yeah, another thing the PRD allows us is to create like an implementation plan so that you don't just say you want to attack all of your features all at once. Because the thing about applications is when you're thinking about it, you might not see those complex flows, yeah. But when you are in the middle of it, you now begin to see, oh, for this to work, I actually need this. For this to work, I actually need this. And then by then, you are in too deep and things start getting complicated. You start getting overwhelmed, right? Same with the AI. That's where the AI starts giving less than ideal outputs because things were not properly scoped, because things were not properly planned. But with the approach we want to take, we are hoping to avoid this and jump all of those hurdles as quickly as possible. Hope you're tracking with me. Hope everyone is tracking with me. Yeah. So that's the awesome. So that's a brief recap on what we did the last session, and we actually so the first step before any product is built is actually validation, right? Because you want to be sure that your idea is not just assumption. You want to be sure that people are will actually be interested in your idea and would be willing to sign up and use your application, right? So to address that, we created like a validation step, like a wait list where we launched the application. We collected information of the people that were interested in the idea, right? So from there, and if you are building it, you can use that as a compass to say, oh, okay, I launched my wait list 2 weeks ago, and 100 people have joined the wait list, 200 people have joined the wait list, 50 people have joined the wait list, right? That in itself is validation enough. You say, okay, now it's not just me and my family that would be using this application. There are actually people that would be interested in this application and possibly it's actually addressing a problem that they have. Right. So that's just a brief recap of session one. So session two today we would be taking a look at some of the other documents we need to create before touching code, as well as we would actually be going into the development side of things. But we want to make it as simple as possible for people that are not so technical, so that even non-technical folk can also benefit from the lesson, right? So that is that is so let's proceed. So we used Airtable the last time to collect the data and the wait list, and then I think we used Netlify to deploy. Right. So we're going past the validation stage. We're assuming the idea is valid, and now we're going to the build phase. Now, I wouldn't focus a lot on tools, right? Because there are a lot of tools. There are a lot of tools, a lot of tools. Every day a new tool comes out. You have Lovable, you have Cursor, you have Cloud Code, you have Codex, a lot of tools, right? But I wouldn't, because it's easy to get lost when you focus only on tools. Uh, it's better to go by the process for creating those documents step by step, going step by step. That helps us create like a repeatable process where you know before you go into development, you actually have something solid. So the process route is what I would recommend. So any tool would work. Any tool would work. Whatever you are using, is it Gemini? Is it Cloud Code? Is it Bolt? Is it Lovable? Or whatever new one would come out tomorrow, right? So process, right? Asking the question, what decisions do I need to make? It's in those questions that as a builder, you see the things you need to build, you see how things connect, you see how you need to arrange things, how you need to structure things. before actually going to the development side of things. Right, the development side of things with AI has become relatively easier, but the execution is still something that we all need to um, work on. Right. So so first thing first, from the PRD, right, we were able to identify the features, and from what I mentioned earlier, we said authentication, we said onboarding, we said public feed, we said the ability to create a post and the ability to upvote. So that's like the first set of features we would be tackling. And authentication particularly is very important because that authentication is something you cannot escape when you have most applications, like except you are building like a blog page or something. Most of the ideas, most of the solutions we are building requires users to log in, different types of users, different types of access access points and authorization. Right. So so apart from the PRD, the next document would need to create is the user stories. Now, what's the user stories? User stories is like a document that gives you insight into how how your users would actually flow through your app. It's like who does what and why and how. So it identifies what your user would need to do to get to a point, what they need to do after that point. Right. For example, Uber, say the user is able to uh, open their app, they choose a location. When they enter a location, they see available rides with the time close to them. So the user story there is, as a user, I want to get from destination A to destination B, and I want to see available rides. So what's the user story helps to achieve, right, is who does what. The PRD helps to identify what to build, but user stories helps to identify who does what, and it's something that we need to understand early on before any kind of development before any kind of development starts, right? It forces you to think of from the user's perspective, not the builder's perspective, because as developers, as builders, right, we tend to make a lot of assumptions. So the user story brings the user's perspective into view and helps us understand how they will actually flow through our app. So from there, we can see flows. We can see, okay, we need this screen. We need to allow the user to be able to do this. We need to provide this button and this functionality. So bringing this in early on helps, number one, helps us as builders to understand the perspective of the user. Also helps us to know what would need to implement or in on the technical side. So it helps us to understand the why of every feature, right? It's for example, okay, so the format, right, is usually, as a user, I want to do something so that something. So there are three steps to it: the user, the action, and the outcome. The user, the action, and the outcome. So for example, we have shipyard, right? So for example, um, the user story for shipyard would be, as a builder, I want to share my idea, my projects with a community of builders and find collaborators. That's like the big high level user story, right? So that will be broken down. So it means, as a user, I want to be able to sign up. That's like the first thing. So provide my email, my password, and then sign into the protected part of the page. That's like the first user story. The second user story might be, I want to be able to view the posts from other people. So that's usually the format of a user story. And from a PRD, you can always you're always able to derive user stories. So let's have a practical using another idea completely. So can someone drop in another idea so we don't use the one for uh shipyard, just something else to show how universally applicable it is. Okay, let's just use the one for I'm not able to see the chart. Anybody? Okay, let me just use the one for Uber, right? Um, I want to build an application. Hope you guys can see my screen. I want to build an application, a ride-hailing application. I want to build a ride-hailing application, uh, ride-hailing application for corporate workers to carpool when they are heading to their offices, right? So that's the general idea. Help create a PRD for this, detailing who the user is, what problems we're addressing, and what features we need to build. All right. So this is like a simple prompt to get a PRD, right? So it's cooking the PRD. Let me zoom in a bit so that we can all see it. So yeah, that's one idea. So it's cooking the PRD. It's working on it. Right. So let's just wait a bit. So yeah, this is typical PRD. We've covered that part, the scope, the stack, and everything. We've covered that part. So next step is the user stories document. That's document two. So it's usually derived from the PRD. So this is the full PRD. It has highlighted everything, the features we need. We need onboarding and verification. We need commute. We need matching, right creation, and all of that. Right. So PRD is settled. So now we want to create the user stories, right? Don't forget the format. It's usually as a user, I want to do this so that I can achieve this. So this is a simple prompt. Um, this is a simple prompt for that we can use, right? You're a technical project product manager based on this PRD, the PRD above write user stories for the application in this exact format. As a user, I want to blah 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 so that I can blah blah blah. Okay, so I don't need to give it the scope, right? So I say group by user types because applications could have different user types. Maybe you can have a user, you can have an admin user, you can have a guest user, and all of that, right? So this is a simple prompt to get the user story, and then let me run it. So you can see from that um, request, you've seen now that okay, you actually have different types of users. You have the corporate employee, you have that is the driver, you have the rider, and then maybe you have an admin, right? So that helps you actually see things from the user side. You're able to understand, okay, I actually have different categories of users, not just one category. So this is a typical example of what the user story will give you. As a rider, I want to sign up, like I mentioned, as a rider, I want to set up my home and office location. As a rider, I want my daily commute schedule. As a rider, I want blah 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 blah. So from here, right, you are beginning to see features, right? Right. So can anyone drop some features they are already saying that we would need to include in the application in the chat? Um, you're already beginning to see the different features already come alive. So from the driver side, I want to register, I want to create a ride, I want to set number of seats, I want to accept and decline. That's a feature. I want to manage recurring carpools. I want. So you see, it's a very important document and it gives the developer and the AI that would be running things when the development starts a lot of context and makes things a lot easier. You're able to get more deterministic output that aligns with the initial idea when you have this supporting document. Right? Is everyone tracking with me? And does anyone have any questions so far? Right. Right. So that is it. So we create the PRD, we create the user story. So we save that. Then um the next document that would need, right? If I go back to the slide, now we know, okay, one more thing. To further break things down, you can now say from this user stories and PRD, highlight the features I need to build and bullet points and add the level of effort and include the level of effort it takes to build. Right. So, so you see, you are able to now identify actual system requirements. You need authentication, user verification. The level of effort is medium, right? You need user profiles, commute setup. The level of effort is medium. You need this medium. So with the level of effort you can plan, if you have two developers or one developer, you're the only one developing, you know that okay, maybe every 2 hours or every 1 hour or every 30 minutes, I can knock this one out. I can knock this one out. It gives you an implementation plan. So with this, you can scope. You can say, okay, let me build feature one, two, three first. Then because the level of effort for feature four is a bit high, let me move it to another time. Right. So that is for user stories. Are we good on user stories? Can we move on? Awesome. Awesome. So what comes next? I want to run through this so that we can get into the implementation side of things in this session as well. But this is actually more important. Like I mentioned, process first, right? Not tools. Process first and not tools. So we have our PRD, we have our user stories. Now we go to the ERD. So ERD is um entity relationship diagram, right? It's for non-technicals, it might seem a little bit overwhelming, but really not. It's really not. It's just drawing out the data, how your data would look like, based on the features you want to build and the outcomes you want to achieve, right? So this would determine how your database will look eventually. So giving that as well to the AI you would use in coding early on is also helps for more deterministic results, right? More excellent results aligned with what you want to build. So it's called an entity relationship document. It answers one question, right? What data do we need to store? PRD answers what to build. User stories answer who does what. ERD answers what data do we need to store, right? Every feature that we have highlighted needs the data behind it. So the ERD document, entity relationship document, I answer the question of what do we need to store. Now we don't need to overthink it at this stage. We just need enough to be able to get to MVP. Of course, the app will always grow and things will always change, right? But there are some things that we need to get right from the beginning, and having that document that defines what the data relationships would look like from the very beginning helps. Helps. So that is the AI maps how the tools, the columns, and how they connect. Just imagine, just imagine like an Excel where you have rows and columns and different sheets, right? So the ERD is like drawing the blueprint of all of those, where how those data connect into what your application is giving out. Because at the end of the day, it's all just connection of data. Any type of app is just data being presented in a certain kind of way, assessed in a certain kind of way. So defining that is very important. Identifying the relationship between the tables and all of that. Right. So I don't want to go too deep in that. Let's just see how that would look like. So for example, now we have the feature list. Now let's generate what the ERD document would look like. So I can just enter this prompt. Okay, based on the user stories, right? So now you can, if you have an idea of what you want to use, if you are a developer or if you have an idea of the tools you want to use, you can provide that. It helps guide what the ERD would look like. So for our own case, we'll be using Next.js, we'll be using Postgres, right? But this is not necessarily like a hard requirement. It helps, but if you don't know it, then here it is generic, right? It's a universal document, and any type of framework or implementation can be adapted to it, right? So design an ERD for the app. And for each table, include the table name. Of course, the AI would know what to do, right? So let's see what that output would look like. This would be the third document we'll be creating in our artifacts folder, right? Before we even start coding at all. So by the time we have all this, the AI would be ready to go. No assumptions, no wrong outputs, like better outputs. So yeah, this is for the user. So the HRD has specified, okay, you need a user table, right? Because you have users. The user table would contain the email, the password, hash, the date they were created, the relationships. You need a profile table, you need a post table, you need upvotes table, so on and so forth, right? Depending on how complex your application is. Now imagine you just go to your AI application and just say, build me this app. Assumptions from A to Z, which is why many would not get what the desired outputs would look like. So with this, you spend lesser time and lesser costs because you're not spending tokens debugging, right? Everything has been thought out, everything has been planned out, everything has been spec, right? So that is what here are the document looks like on the surface. There's a diagram part to it, but you can always explore that. You can always explore that later on. So it would always give us the database notation that we used to create all of the table. So we'll see all of that at work. We'll see all of that at work, but our app is already coming to life, right? We can see it, even though we have not written one line of code. Imagine we just started with build me this app. At this point, we'll be battling bugs, right? Wasting our tokens and all of that. So like I said, process approach is much better than just focusing on the tools and whatever. Are we tracking? Are we good? Do I need to take a step back? Do I move on? All right. Okay. Okay, so that's good. Next step. Next step is we have the PRD, we have the user stories, we have our ERD. Next step is the user flow, right? So the user flow documents helps us answer another question. It helps us answer, okay, user stories help us know what the users want, right? The user flow answers how do they get it step by step. So the user flow is another document that details the journey of the user, the step-by-step journey of the user, and identifies every page, every click, and every endpoint that needs to, and every interaction that needs to happen in between the different systems, right? So with the user flow is actually very important, especially with AI-enabled building, because with that you're telling the AI the exact how. There's no assumption there, so the AI knows, okay, for onboarding to happen, I need to show a sign up screen. After a sign up screen, I need to show a screen for the user to enter, blah, blah, blah. Then I need to redirect the user to the dashboard. So the onboarding flow consists of 3 documents, maybe 9 components, 2 API calls. Are, are you with me? So that's what the user flow allows us to achieve, right? Um, and it's actually very important. So with this, there's the level of accuracy of your artificial intelligence output for the code assistance is even higher, right? Because at this point, everything is specified. You know the screens, you know the components, you know what you want to achieve, you know the API call. It makes development faster, it makes development clearer, and helps get the results you desire faster. Right. So a quick recap. PRD identifies what to build. User stories identifies who does what. And then user flow identifies exactly how to get it done step by step. Right. So, so for our case, the application we want to build for the create a post flow, first step is can the user clicks a button, maybe a post right or a post button. It takes them to a form, right? From the form, they can fill the title, the description, they can choose a category, right? And then they click submit, and then we call the API for post, for creating a post, and then the database inserts something into the table, the table we've defined in the earlier stage where we created the ERD. And once that's done, we show a success alert or something like that. That's a complete flow. So you can see it all how the different documents are connecting into each other. Right? Am I making sense? Are you tracking with me? Awesome. So user flow. Awesome. So for example, in the car hailing uh in the ride hailing app idea we were working on, we can say we can just drop this and say, okay, you are a blah blah blah. Based on the user stories above and the entity relationship diagram, right? Above. Create a detailed user flow for the app, for the application. Each user flow includes the trigger, the steps, the page, the components, and the API calls, right? So, okay, don't let's give it the flows. Let it come up with the flows by itself. But you can get as detailed as possible if you, of course, depending on your own idea. But this should get you the user flow. So let's see what that output would look like. Okay. So this is the flow for sign up. Either click sign up, either lands on the sign up page, user enters email password, user blah 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 blah. So all the step by step. This is golden for the AI or even yourself if you are writing the code yourself, you know every step. Everything is clear. That level of clarity from the get-go is very, very important and very, very helpful. So with this, the AI would make fewer mistakes, and get you what you want in one or two tries, right? Find there might be little things you might need to modify, but with this level of detail and clarity, the core, the core structure of every flow you want to implement is already in place, right? So you can see this is the flow for sign up profile creation. It even identified the input. So if imagine you are using React or something, the AI knows, okay, I need to build for this page, I need um email input, I need password input, I need a submit button. So yeah, and then the API calls, it knows how to interact with the backend to achieve that flow. You can see the login, you can see create a post. Okay. So yeah, that is user flow. So even you can see that we almost have a full application, even though we've not written a line of code, right? Our idea is ready to build. Our idea is ready to build. The time that this would save, imagine we just went code first and we just started figuring things out. It would spend more time than spending some time to actually spec things out at the beginning before going into the code. Right. So those are all the flows. So in your own case too, you can create different flows and give that to the whatever tool, whatever AI you are using. Right. So with those documents, we are even good to go. We're good to go, right? But let's even take things further. Next is I call it stack.md. It's just a document, right? Where you at this point you might already know the tools you want to use. At this point, you might already know the tools you want to use. Um, yeah, for front end, for back end, for API, whatever. If you already know it, it's better to also provide that in a document, just like a breakdown of it, and give that to the AI so that there are no assumptions at all. So in our own case, for Shipyard, we'll be using Next.js, like I mentioned, we'll be using Postgres for authentication because we want to go fast, right? We don't have 3 weeks to build authentication. We want to go fast. So we'll be using an authentication provider. So let me show you some of the tools we would be using, right? First is we need a database to store our data. We already created ERD, we created all of that. We need a database. There are many tools. We have Superbase, you have Firebase, a lot of tools. But for our own case, we'll be using Shipyard, right? So Shipyard, and I say Shipyard. Shipyard is the application. For our own case, we'll be using Neon. Neon is a database provider, and we they have a robust free tier. So if you don't want to pay at the beginning, right, you can use Neon. I think it's neon.db, neon dot neon.tech rather. If you go to neon.tech, you can be able to sign in and spin up a database quickly, a Postgres database. Essentially, Postgres. If you're using MySQL or something else, Neon, I don't think Neon would work for you, but Neon is good if you're using Postgres database. And if you don't know the stack, right, you're already using ChatGPT or whatever, you can also pass a prompt. Um, okay, let me say for the ride hailing app, what stack would be recommended? for a quick MVP. Because there are different levels of complexity, right? Depending on what you want to do. But we're going from idea to product incrementally. So we don't want to go too crazy at this point. We want to build fast. We want to validate fast. So we need tools, and we don't want to spend too much time and too much money. In fact, we don't want to spend any money at all. So that's to determine the tools we want to use as well. So for the app, it's saying React Native, most likely to be a mobile app. It's saying Node.js. It's also recommending Postgres and all of that. So yeah, those are like the low-hanging fruits. It's easy for most applications. Your Next.js, your React, if you are React based, would would uh would be enough. And the tooling around it is quite good, especially for non-technicals who might just be getting their hands dirty for the first time. Right. So if you already know what you want to use, you can just add a prompt that looks something like this. You are a blah blah blah, create a stack document, and then you specify the different tools, right? Your Next.js, your Postgres, and all of that. You want to specify for your front end, for your back end, for your database, for your maybe if you have payments, which we'll get to maybe in the third session, your authentication provider, your deployment provider, everything. So it would create a solid document, right, that you can also pass to the artificial intelligence. So to the AI that you want to use to build, right? So the stack document gives technical context on everything we've identified, all the features we've identified, how to actually build it. Right, we're almost there. But so we're at this point, we know what we want to build. We know the steps, we know the data, we know the stack. Now it's all about project management, right? It's all about project management. So it's just like an icing on the cake to even make your work easier. This is not necessarily a requirement, but from like a product, from a product perspective, it could be helpful. It's just like creating a to-do list now. We earlier on we identified the level of effort for some of those ideas, right? So the backlog or to-dos or whatever you want to call it just breaks down all of those things into what you can do step by step until you're done building, right? So it's just a build instruction manual, basically. It breaks down the entire product into tasks, small tasks that you can do, and it has the definition of done for each of those tasks. So even if you give that task to an AI, it knows, okay, I need to do this, and this have to work for the task to be done. So it's as simple as that. It's just an icing on the cake on our documents blueprint, right? So I would need to move a bit faster here. So that is simple. You can now see, right, this is assuming we already have the stack. You can now say, okay, I think we need to create the stack first so that we don't miss out anything. For the blah 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 for the ride alien project. For the ride alien project. Right. So we need to create the stack first because it's the backlog needs that context as well. So that stack, it's just instructions, right, on how everything would be set up. Okay. On how everything will be set up. So I think we do have a stack now. With the more the information you can provide, the better. So finally, to create the task breakdown, you can, you can now you pass all of the documents you've been creating since the beginning, right? Based on the PRD and the user stories and the ERD and the user flows and the stack. Now create a backlog for the, you can call it any name, to do backlog or whatever, for the ride hailing, application. For the ride hailing application. Right. The for each task include task number, the goal. Oh, okay. I even added this, which is helpful. Even the prompt to get it done, right? And then definition of done, what done means, what you can test to be sure it's actually done. Other tasks by technical dependency, what must exist. Right. Right. So you can always update this to suit what you want to build. So this is the final document in our stack. I said stack in our document flow. So we have 6 solid documents we're passing to the AI. We're passing the PRD, we're passing the user stories, we're passing the ERD, we're passing user flows, we're passing stack, we're passing backlog, or to do, or whatever you want to call it. Right. So back to the tools. I was showing you some of the tools we were going to use earlier. I showed Neon. So for authentication, we are going to use Clerk. Now, Clerk, because we want to move fast, right? Clerk is an authentication provider, and I think it's free to the point of maybe a few thousand users. So it's good. You can give it a go at early on, right? When you want to quickly build, it gives you a solid authentication stack. But because authentication is very important, there are um, some few things you need to understand about authentication. Right? Because security is like the most important thing. If your authentication is faulty, there might be problem later on. So there are there are some things you want to pay attention to. There are some rules you want to pay attention to. First rule is don't build your auth from scratch. It's better you use like an existing provider, trusted provider, something like Clark, something like Superbase Auth, something like Better Auth. There are a lot of providers, right? Depending on how you are building it. It's better to build on what exists. Don't spin up your own, except you know what you are doing. Don't spin up your own authentication, right? That's like rule number one. Number two is understand the difference between authentication and authorization, right? So authentication is answering the question of who are you, right? Who are you? I'm Caleb. I have access to this record on this app. But the authorization is what are you allowed to do? I can edit my own post. I can delete my own post, but I cannot delete someone else's post. So that is authentication and authorization. I know some of us might be technical already. This might just be uh, low level stuff, but I am sure there might be some non technical people among us as well. So it's better we make some of those things clear. Protecting your API routes is important. You don't want to expose your important API endpoints because people will just be eating it. Anybody, bots, malware, whatever, will be eating your endpoint and access the data they're not supposed to access. Another rule is not to store passwords like raw passwords in your DB. You just don't want to put a field on your this thing that collects password. I know I'm talking at a very low level here. Most of us are already familiar with all of this, but for the sake of the completely non-technical people, let's just go over that. And yeah, and so the universal checklist is okay. Use a trusted auth provider or library. Ensure your APIs verify identity first. Of course, you could have public endpoints, but those should be properly separated. And then no sensitive user data should be returned. Should be returned in API responses, right? Very sensitive data like account and all of that needs to be properly handled. So that is that for authentication. But for our case for Shipyard, we are going to be using Clark. Clark is accessible clark.com. So if you come to clark.com, create an account, you're able to create um, applications, right? So I already created for Shipyard. So this is what you would connect to your application and get things going. So now we are ready to build. We have the 6 documents ready. In your own case, you can run it on your whatever idea you are also running. So we pass that, we just open a folder, whatever tool we want to use, right? Is it Gemini? Is it Codex? Is it Cloud Code? For people that are interested in like the free, you can try Kilo Code, right? Kilo Code gives you some access to some very cheaper models, and then you can install it on your VS Code or whatever IDE you are using. So to I think I already connected it to my VS Code. So you can see, you can just install it as a plugin on VS Code. On VS Code, and you'll be able to, that's if you really want to stay as free as possible. Kilo Code is not bad. Of course, the quality of the output might differ depending on the model you are using, but Kilo Code is not bad. Open Code is also there. Lots of, like I said, tools. At this point, tool is not the problem. Execution is the problem. So Kilo Code, you can add it to, you can add it to your VS Code or whatever you're using. Drop all of those documents. The 6 documents we have, the PRD, okay, so let me open our own folder for Shipyard. 1 minute. So I can show where, right. So this is, right. So for Shipyard, this is what we have created. You can see, I know it's small. Let me see, can I zoom? So you have your PRD, this, you have your user stories, you have your user flows, you have your stack, and you have your backlog. You have given the AI everything it needs, right? So you can just go to whatever AI you are using and say, take a minute to understand, all of these documents. So the AI would, okay, I understand, and then start building. So in my case, I'm using Cloud Code. And right, so I'm using Cloud Code. I just said, okay, I gave it all of those documents, and I said, so based on the backlog, right? You can start attacking those tasks one by one. First task might be create the folder structure. Second task might be, okay, build authentication. So that's what that backlog or to do helps you achieve. Right. So let me show you what it outputted after I ran all of those. After I ran all of those, after the AI ran just one time, this was the output. This was the output for Shipyard. Right. This is what the landing page looks like. So you can see we've gone from idea to a solid definition of everything we want as documents, and now we are beginning to create the pages. So this is the landing page, everything we want to build, share your builds, validate your ideas. And then because we've specified everything in Clerk, it has also included Clerk in the implementation. So our application already has authentication. So what you need to do to complete the authentication flow is you go to Clerk, right? You create your application. Okay, let me just go and try to create a new application. So create application, enter the name of your application, say maybe ride alien, right? Like the other one we're talking about. Ride alien. You can choose the different types of authentication you want, but I would suggest keeping it simple, maybe just the email password or whatever you want to use, and then you create application. So that is the setup for Clerk. So this would give you what you need, right, is a secret, the API key. So if you go to API key, you would see two API keys you need to copy. One is the publishable key, and the other is the secret key. I don't want to share that, but if you open this API key here, you would see that. I don't want to share that because it's actually very important. You don't want to share that in your own case too. If you put it in whatever your code assistant is creating, it means you fully have authentication built. The other thing is, of course, nothing will work yet because you need to connect it to a database, right? Then you go to Neon, the same process, create a new project. So for example, you come to Neon, under new project, create new project, give it a name. Let's say Ride Alien, blah, blah, blah. It's very easy, right? And then it will give you a free database you can use. Yeah, so to connect it to your code, the code you are generating, just come to connect your database depending on what you are using, right? We are using Next.js. So if I come to this .env, it will give me what I need to copy and paste in my environment variables. So those three is important. So at this point we have authentication, we have the landing page, we have authentication built in. So if I come here, let me sign out. I say sign in, right? It's showing this. So you can see it's secured by Clerk. Right. So if I enter my email, I want to sign in now. I already created an account. Shipyard. Right. Password. Can I remember my password? Okay, password. Yeah. So I'm logged in. You can see I'm logged in. So I can go to dashboard. Oops. I clicked on. What did I click on? I can go to /dashboard. You see. So this This is the point where the builder, now the user of the application, um, enters their details. So based on the user flow, we said when the user joins, the user is supposed to go through onboarding where we collect some of the information they want, some of their information. So I can say, Caleb, what are you building? I'm building Shipyard. This is just like a profile. I love to build. Okay, let me just say I love to build apps. I love to build solutions. So this is possible because we have specified all of those things in the user flow. So the AI knew exactly what to build and what we were trying to achieve. I love to build impactful solutions, right? So impactful solutions. And then what skills? Okay, I can just choose the skills I have, right? And then continue. And then continue. So we have knocked out the authentication part of the application. Of course, we still have some other features to build. We have the feed, we have the problems where you can collaborate and we have collaborators. But I think the time is almost run out. It's almost run out. Okay, so from with all of those documents we gave in a matter of minutes, we're able to build an application that fully has authentication built, fully has the onboarding built. So now, based on our backlog, we can go back to our backlog and check out, okay, this is done, this is done. What is next? So, so for me now, for Shipyard, the next step would be this public feed. I can go there and say, okay, now commence this task, build the public feed, and you can give it further instructions, but it is always referencing those initial documents. And with that, within one try, two tries, you have everything, everything ready to go. I would have loved to deploy this so that we can actually see that, oh wow, from those documents we actually created a working a working application, right? Of course, we'll still in the next session we would now build out the full build out where all of those features will come in, where you yourself you'll be able to go in and use the application, right? But we've set the foundation. First, we set the conceptual foundation, all of those documents. Now we've set the technical foundation. Authentication is in there for our MVP, right? Authentication is like the biggest feature, and we built that. So the other features are not as complex. I'd have loved to go on, but I think this would be a good place to stop for session two. Um, this would be a good place to stop for session two, so we can pick things up for idea to product session three, where we would focus on completing the other features, improving the design, deploying it, so that we have a live URL, and then adding some other things, adding payments or whatever you want to add, adding analytics or whatever. So yeah, so session three would be polishing and the other features. But from here, right, we have the we have the core feature, which is everything ties back to the authentication, right, to the user, and we already have that powered by Clerk, powered by Neon, and that is so within a matter of one day, you are able to build something valuable. You can be able to build out your ideas. So by the next session, we'll be building features, all of these things. All of these things already exist in our user flow. So it will take a very short time to build out. But I think this would be a good place to call it a day. Right. So yeah, over to you guys. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, yeah. We You can always get it on YouTube. I think we'll post the series on YouTube. Someone is out there can get the recording. You can always get it on YouTube, and we'll share the link on the community. As long as you're in the WhatsApp community, you will get the recording. So this is session two of the idea to product series where we started from an idea, going to end in actually usable product that all of us are going to use. So this is session two. We have, I think, one more session to go where we complete the build out. But I think we are the hardest part is actually done. The hardest part is actually done. But those documents, that effort, that initial effort creating this document at the beginning is very important and helps implementation. The next session is on um, the minute. I know it's in May. It's the 11th of May. So 2 weeks time, I believe. 2 weeks time, I believe. But hope this was helpful. Hope at least we learned one or two things. With the absence of questions, I would assume we are on track, right? We're on track. So I think this is a good place to call it a day. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the time. Over to you.
Thank you, Caleb. Please, can we appreciate Caleb tonight? Please, let's appreciate Caleb with a smiley in the comment section. Thank you for your time. It's been a long call tonight. All right, so, okay, there's a comment in the comment section. Okay. All right. So thank you once again, everyone. Yeah, go ahead, Khalid.
Yeah, your voice was I think it's better now.
Yeah, I was trying to read the comment section. All right. So we're going to get this recording ready and also share the link with us for those that were able to join, so that we can also catch up with whatever you missed on the call tonight. Once again, thank you everyone for joining in. Do you have a restful night? Bye. Good night, everyone.